Welcome to the Power of Love show, sponsored by the TJ Jackson Foundation, where we shine a light on loss and grief and how it impacts our lives. We are here to provide hope, resources, and a community so no one feels alone in their grief. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the Power of Love show, sponsored by the TJ Jackson Foundation, where we shine a light on loss and grief. I am TJ Jackson, and with me is my eldest brother, Taj Jackson.
What's going on, T?
How are you doing, Mr. Jackson?
Doing great. Doing great.
Wonderful to hear. I think most of you know, but we are live on the Power of Love show, currently on Facebook and YouTube. But you also may be listening to us via the podcast. And if so, we'd like to thank you guys for joining us. Of course, if you're listening to on the podcast, make sure you subscribe. And if you enjoy what you hear, and if you learn something, please consider leaving a positive review, as it helps others who may need to find our content. It helps them find it. With that said, we have to say a disclaimer. We are not licensed therapists. We are just ordinary people who've experienced loss in our lives. We've been impacted by it, and we have learned from it. And what we like to do here is we like to share our opinions in an attempt to help you get through whatever it is you may be going through. Saying that, if you need professional help, we urge you to seek it and to find it. Please do not just rely on us. Mr. Taj Jackson, today's date is Wednesday, November 16th.
Yes.
It's crazy that our year is almost complete.
That is crazy.
Where does the time go? But Taj, I wanted to know, how was your week? How have you been?
Week's good, TJ. You know, basically, November is always a hectic month for me in general. You can probably tell from my voice. My wife's birthday is on the 10th, and then we celebrated Taylor's birthday early on the 12th. And so the week was a tough week last week, you know, in that way.
Busy week.
Busy week. Yes, definitely. Busy week. So yeah, everything, you know, it's great when everything happens and goes well in that way. So in that way, it's a great week. But yeah, so that's, sometimes I have busy weeks, sometimes I don't, but the end of the year, it usually always picks up and is really busy for me. What about you?
I know this answer. I was going to ask you, have you started any holiday shopping?
I kind of, you know, I was thinking about the Black Friday, Cyber Monday deals and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'll probably start then when everyone else starts, but yeah, no, I'm not starting.
Okay. Well, I didn't think you had, but I wanted to remind you, Taj, to go to Amazon Smile before you shop. Why should you go on Amazon Smile, Taj?
Because anytime you go on Amazon Smile and use, you know, and use the DJF as the sponsor, basically, we get a little percentage of that for our foundation. And it doesn't cost you anything extra. It's the same price of what you normally would pay. It just, Amazon donates to us a certain percentage.
There you go. So
you're helping the charity without even knowing you're helping. I mean, you do know you're helping the charity. Yeah.
Without it being any extra cost to you. And it's very easy to do. Just go to Amazon Smile, maybe Google Amazon Smile. It'll take you to an Amazon page, and then you just designate TJ Jackson Foundation. You can find our foundation, designate it as the foundation you want to give back to. And then whenever you go to shop, there is a special tab you would hit before shopping, but it says it's quite easy to do. You just have to make sure you do it once or twice, and then you'll get the hang of it. And then every time, not just during this time of the season, but all year, every year, you can hit that tab, and then part of your proceeds from your purchase will go to TJ Jackson Foundation.
Exactly.
So it's a really cool way to get back without really just by clicking Amazon through a different way. So there you go. Bookmark that tag and then do your shopping that way and help TJ Jackson Foundation out.
Yeah.
Another thing I need to mention, Taj, before we get into and introduce our guest, is the TJ Jackson Foundation official Facebook group. Now, Facebook is one of my favorite social medias. I know it's not the most popular now, especially amongst the youngsters, but what I love about Facebook is these Facebook groups. There's so many great Facebook groups out there for really anything you may be going through. I'm sure there's a group out there where you can get some great advice, great insight, and discuss things with. With that said, TJ Jackson Foundation has its own official Facebook group where we have some intelligent people and an amazing amount of support within our community. They are present and they help support you if you're going through something, if you need advice, if you need just a support system. I strongly suggest you join the official Facebook group and considering looking for some help there or some guidance.
Yeah.
And since we're doing that, Todd, I guess we should also mention our Facebook and Instagram handles at TJ Jackson Foundation, and then there's Twitter, which is simply at TJ Foundation. Okay, Taj. I think is there anything else we need to hit in the intro before we invite our amazing guests to join us today?
No, you did a great job, by the way.
Thank you, Taj. I try to live up to my reputation.
I think you're saying. You try to figure it out, but it's all right. Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyways, I'll take the compliment and run with it. Whenever you get a compliment from a brother, that's like a double compliment. So
Yeah.
I appreciate it, Taj. Anyways, on today's episode of the Power of Love Show, we welcome a very special guest. Her name is Barbara Carnes. If it has to do with death and dying, Barbara Carnes is talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Barbara is a registered nurse, international recognized author, speaker, thought leader, and expert on end-of-life care and the dynamics of dying. Wow. Barbara's career spans 4 decades and began as an early hospice pioneer during the AIDS crisis. In addition to the many years she has spent at the bedside caring for patients and their families as a nurse, Barbara has also served as executive director of hospice and various home health agencies. She has also worked through the hospice ranks as patient care manager, clinical director, staff, nurse, and volunteer. Barbara is a dedicated end-of-life educator, training nurses and volunteers, authoring resources, materials, booklets, movies, and her fabulous blog. Her experience as a hospice care provider at the bedside of hundreds of people and as an administrator overseeing the care of thousands led to the 1985 publication of Gone From My Sight, The Dying Experience, affectionately referred to in the industry as the Little Blue Hospice Book. Gone From My Sight has sold over 30 million copies worldwide and is published in 12 languages and remains the leading resource on the market today, educating families on the signs of approaching death. Barbara was recognized in 2018 as a hospice innovator by the National Hospice and Palliative Care Organization and was named the 2015 International Humanitarian Woman of the Year by the World Humanitarian Awards. In 2015, Barbara's film New Rules for End-of-Life Care was featured in film festivals around the world and was a recipient of 10 prestigious film awards. That's amazing, Barbara. Her articles have been featured in the New York Times, USA Today, the Huffington Post, Thrive Global, and the Washington Post, among others. Awarded the NHPCO Innovator Award for her decades as an end-of-life educator and for her iconic booklet, Gone From My Sight, The Dying Experience, aka the Little Blue Hospice Book. Here today, you guys, to discuss her work. Without much further ado, please welcome the one and only Barbara Carnes to the Power of Love Show. Barbara. First of all, I have to
having me here.
We are so blessed to have you. I'm amazed at your I don't know the word. Thank you, Todd. I didn't want to say resume.
I'm here for you. Throw those words that I know you're thinking.
That I struggle with. But really, Barbara, that's amazing. 10, first of all, with the film, 10 prestigious awards, and then, which is even more mind-boggling to me, because I think it's because this is actually people purchasing, and it's not, a group of people deciding, but actually 30 million people deciding to buy your book, Gone From My Sight, The Dying Experience. I have to start off right there. I'm an aspiring one-day author. That has to feel amazing for you to know the impact you've made on our world with your book.
I believe I've touched many lives because of that booklet. And obviously that makes me feel very good. Um, People don't understand end of life,
Mm,
and to have some kind of explanation,
Mhm.
because dying isn't like in the movies and
mm.
we don't know what to expect. So, Gone from My Sight gives you a guide of what to look for, what's normal, what's natural.
Mhm. Wow.
It's truly amazing, the accomplishment. Now, I have a list of questions for you, but before I get to them, I like to call an avid reader. Even though I haven't been reading as much as I want, but you in your bio there's a word I've never heard before, and that was palliative. As in terms of palliative care, I've never heard of that term. Can you just educate our community with what the word palliative means?
Well, palliative care came after hospice became official, I'll put that in quotes, in that hospice takes care of people that are no longer receiving treatment
Mhm.
for their end of life disease or the disease that is causing them to approach end of life. And so we created what's called palliative care, which is a pre hospice program. It's for people that have life threatening illnesses, but are saying, I'm not ready to stop treatment.
Got
I
it.
still want to see if it'll make a difference. And
Mm,
so we provide supportive care, guidance, um, for those people, for as long as they need it. And then
Mhm.
hopefully when the medical treatments aren't working anymore, they'll switch over to hospice.
mm. And that's got to be a difficult. I mean, I truly feel my only experience with hospice is with my grandfather. That was the first time I had heard of the term, but that was my first time experiencing what hospice is. And I have, there's so many people wanting to say hello and welcome, and I'll get back to it. But there is a comment from Elena who says utmost respect for hospice nurses, and that's what I wanted to say. I have nothing but respect for them. They, I truly feel it's one of the most difficult jobs to do, because you're not only tending to someone who's who's going to be passing, but also you're dealing with the family and all those type of variables. So
Yeah.
again, just want to give you and all of those out there who've worked in the hospice field as much love and respect as possible, because it's an amazing profession that I don't even know if I could do, so I think it's amazing.
TJ,
Thank
real quick, just Angie wants to know, what does hospice mean? Like, because
Oh,
we're
good,
just
Tosh.
I know we went through that with Grandpa in terms of him going to a hospice, but Barbara, would you?
Great.
All right. Hospice takes care of people that the doctors are having a difficult time fixing. People that have reached a point in their disease process where the doctors have said, you know, we're not going to be able to fix this.
Mm,
So, hospice helps people live the best they can within the confines that their body and disease puts them in.
mhm,
So often, when someone's been told they can't be fixed, they just concentrate on dying. They go home, sit in their favorite recliner, and their life stops. And what hospice provides physical care, yes, but it also provides emotional, social,
Mm,
communal, and spiritual support. So just because you can't heal the physical body doesn't mean that there isn't healing to be done. We can
mhm.
mm.
heal the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual parts of a person while we are keeping them physically comfortable. That's
Wow,
kind of hospice, 25 words or less.
I love that. No,
that
that
was
that
great.
helps us. That
Yeah.
helps a lot. So thank you, Barbara. Another question I have about this is: when initially studying to become a registered nurse, did you already know that you wanted to work in hospice care?
Such an interesting question, because when I graduated from nursing school, which was in 1962, so a long time ago, I thought, oh my gosh, I've made a huge mistake. I should have never been a nurse. I should have been a social worker, but I never worked in the medical system. I raised a family. I did interior decorating actually. But in my 40s, I, at that time in the 70s, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross came forward, a doctor in this country who said, we are not taking care of our dying appropriately.
Mhm.
And Dame Cicely Saunders in England developed what she called a hospice. And the hospice philosophy was to take care of people and help them live. And as I'm reading about this, I thought, oh, I relate to that. That I will work with. And so I studied everything I could, which wasn't much actually, um, and then went to work as a volunteer for hospice. And that lasted 4 months, and they brought me on salary after that. But my thinking was that what I learned during the 5, 6 years that I did direct patient care, that was my school. That was
Mm.
my education.
Mhm.
The patients and their families taught me what dying is like, how it has a natural process. It taught me not only the signs of approaching death, because no one had them at that time, because we stuck a patient at the end of the hall in the hospital and no one was really there. So part of my work was being at the bedside
Mm.
consistently with people that were dying and that
Mm.
did die. And they taught me what dying a normal death is like. And
Mm.
from that, then I have reached out to educate others on the normal, natural process of dying and what to do about it.
So you've created an amazing amount of resources for the end of life, death, and dying community, from books to articles to DVDs. Was this because you saw there was a gap in literature or resources and wanted to fill it?
Absolutely. The thing is, our medical model views death as a failure. And so our medical model focuses on getting people better. And it didn't really address dying because the focus was on getting people better.
Mm.
Where with my materials and now with hospice, with palliative care, with end of life doulas, we have come forward and said, hey, there's a process to dying from disease or old age. We've said there's really just two ways to die. You either die fast or you die gradually. And gradual death is old age or a disease. And that has a process to it. If it didn't have a process, if it just happened, then it would be fast death. And so we educate, and my materials short, simple, direct,
Mm.
no medicalese. I want all of us to be able to understand what dying is like, what to look for. And so, no medical ease. It's here's what's going to happen in our normal conversation.
Is there, you've done a lot. I'm curious to know, is there one, if you had to narrow it down to one resource that you created that you are most proud of?
Oh, well, that would have to be gone from my site. I mean,
Yeah.
you won't sell 30 million
Yeah.
copies without feeling proud of that.
Yeah.
It it also what makes me feel good about it is it opened the door. It opened the door to asking questions. It opened the door for further study, for further seeking knowledge. It's not everything that was ever written about end of life, but it is enough to show the process. And that process occurs in gradual death from disease. That process occurs months before death actually comes. And so there are things that you can look for that say a person has months. Oh, 2, 3, 4 months before death is when changes begin. And then there's more changes that occur in 1 to 3 weeks before death. I call that labor, where we're working hard to get out of our body. And then there's the moment of death and grief following that. So there's this process that if people understand, it will neutralize the fear and help them live the best they can and to
Who
support their family while
would
it's happening.
who would you say gone from my sight, right? Gone from my sight, the dying experience. Who would you say that is specifically for? Who needs this book, and what would you say it offers readers?
I think everyone should read it because most of us don't understand dying or death.
Hmm.
And so, because everybody dies, we are born, we experience, and we die. It's the name of the game. Everyone's going to do it. And yet, we Americans in particular have our head in the sand and say, if I talk about dying, if I
Hmm.
read something about it, I will surely die. And so we're these ostriches where everyone needs to understand because everyone's going to die and all of us are going to have someone close to us die.
Mm.
And having that knowledge will help us have an experience that isn't based on terror and fear and lack of knowledge. With that knowledge, we can support and guide our loved one and help create a sacred experience, which then is a sacred memory that we will carry with us forever. With lack of knowledge, it is often a terrifying experience, and then we carry that negative experience with us forever.
That's great. What would you say is the biggest misconception people have about death and dying?
Ah,
What? What
yeah, okay.
yeah, yeah. I'm curious to know that.
I think the biggest misconception is that we're going to say something very profound, like in the movies, and then we're dead. And that's not how people die. There is that process. And in the days to hours, even the weeks before death, they're not normal is when it comes to conversing or how a healthy person is. They're withdrawing from this world. They're going inside. They're processing their life on many levels, but that processing is only done by one, by themselves internally. And so the misconception is that we're going to be normal until we stop breathing. And our thinking process isn't the same. I equate the 1 to 3 weeks before death to labor. We go through labor to get here. It's similar to when we leave. And think about a woman in labor. She's not conversing and talking about the weather. Her energy, she's concentrating on her work at hand, and it hurts. Well, when we're in labor to leave this world, we're concentrating on our labor to get out of our body. And sometimes it hurts and sometimes it doesn't. But for us watchers, if we don't understand, then it looks like it hurts. Disease causes pain. Dying itself is not painful. But most people don't know that.
Mm. Yours truly, April, as I have always seen hospice as becoming somewhat comfortable with knowing the loved one is going to pass away. I love that comment, April, and I love what you said, Barbara. That's I never thought of obviously equating it to labor or anything like that, but it truly makes sense. So thank you for sharing that. Taj, I had a couple more questions, but I want to make sure I'm not hogging. Make sure if you had any questions.
A curious question in terms of, because writing a book's such a it's a process in a way. Did you know that was there a calling to write this book? Because obviously there's a market for it, but in terms of, were you nervous about it? Just in terms of with our viewers, like, what was it like writing that book, and did you know the importance of it when you were writing it?
I didn't know the importance of it, but here's the story. I was a primary care nurse, hospice nurse, and one night, 3 o'clock in the morning, I was on call and I went to a patient's home. The idea is that in the middle of the night, the goblins always come out. And if you just answer an on-call on the phone, you're gonna end up with your patient in the ER in the morning. So you roll out of bed and you go see what's happening. So it's 3 o'clock in the morning. Mom is fine. She's doing what people do when they die, but the family didn't know that. So I'm sitting with the family in the living room explaining what mom's doing, the normal, natural way that a person dies and that she's doing a good job. And one of the daughters was taking notes. And I thought, oh, goodness, what is wrong with this picture? She should not be having to take notes on what I'm saying. So that weekend, and this is before computers, I'm sitting in my living room on the sofa with a yellow legal pad, and I'm writing what I wanted families to know. And that's why I wrote it short, because they don't have the energy to read a lot, and why I didn't use medical ease. I wanted my families to be able to open that book at 3 o'clock in the morning and go, oh, yeah, mom's breathing like this because that's what she's supposed to be doing. So that's where that book came from.
That's great. I've just been flipping through some comments that there are some great ones. One I'm going to share is from Angie. She says, your explanation of death makes me feel a little better about death. It doesn't seem as scary anymore. What is that when you hear a comment like this? What's your initial reaction response to that?
That I'm doing my work well, that people are listening, and that's what I'm on this planet for, is to neutralize the fear that goes with death and dying. It's a normal, natural process. I can't take the sadness away. We will be sad when someone we care about and love dies, but I can take away some of the fear and the misconceptions that pathological things are happening. I can help people see how death normally occurs. Our body is programmed to die. It's programmed. It has a way that it dies. And that's, if we touch into that, then we can see, how we take care of people who are dying has evolved over time, but not how the body dies. It's made to die and begins dying the moment we take our first breath.
It's powerful stuff. Thank you so much, Barbara. Caitlin has a question. How can we make a dying loved one feel safe at the end of life?
We love them. We love them. Number one, understand the process. So get some books and understand what's happening, and then be there. They're going to reach a point where words don't matter. In the months before death, figure out how to make life and living special. Have your bucket list and look at it and talk. But as death approaches, presence, and I don't mean the kind with a ribbon, I mean our being there, is the most we can do for a loved one. Know that they can hear even in the moments following death.
Mm.
And so, even in the weeks before death, when they're agitated, when they're non responsive in the days before death, you talk to them. You tell them how much you love them. And I'm here for you, Dad. I'm going to sit here and hold your hand. It isn't the words you say, it's your presence that will make the dying person feel safe at end of life.
That's great. I think you've answered this question, but I'm going to re-ask it again, and you can answer it again because I think it's that important of a question. The question I want to know is, you've obviously been at the bedside of hundreds of people as they have transitioned from this world. What has being around death taught you about life?
It has taught me that most of us don't appreciate our living, that most of us either live in the past or we live in the present. No, no, no. Cancel that. We live in the past or we live in the future. Most of us don't live in the moment.
Yeah.
The past is a memory. The future is an idea. The only thing that's real is this given moment. And yet, most of us blow it because we don't appreciate and acknowledge the moment. Our mind is going so many different places. When I go to bed at night, before I close my eyes and try to sleep, I say to myself, what was good about today? What did I do today that I traded a day of my life for? It may be watching my squirrels at the feeder. It may be looking at the moon and saying how beautiful it was. It may have been a conversation I had. Today, tonight, it's going to be our conversation that has very much been worth trading a day of my life for. I think we all can do that and appreciate our living.
That's fantastic. Taj, anything before I ask another question?
Yeah, it's a tough question, but it's because I know, especially with the hospice, and we were very fortunate because we were able to go to Vegas when our grandfather was there. But what would you tell someone that isn't able to go or just missed that opportunity and the person passed, before they got there or whatever, and they're now living with some guilt or something like that aspect of it? What would you tell to those kind of people?
Great question. Great question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. First, use telephone, use Zoom. If you can't be there, Even if the person is non-responsive, you get on the phone and you have someone hold the phone and you say what's in your heart. You talk about the good times and the challenging times, everything you want to say. Phone, Zoom, they're probably going to be so removed, but they're not going to be able to really make contact with a Zoom. But it's the words on the phone that they will hear. Now, let's say you can't even use a phone, that there's no one there to hold a phone. What do? Thoughts are things. Sit down in your favorite recliner at home, close your eyes, and visualize dad in bed asleep. And you enter and you see him in bed asleep and do what your heart tells you to do. Is it crawl in bed with him and hold him in your arms? Is it sitting on the bed and taking his hand? Maybe it's just standing by the bed. Whatever your heart tells you to do in your mind, do it. And then start talking to him. Tell him everything you would have said if you were there, because in your mind, you are there. And again, thoughts are things. At some point, you will have said everything that you needed to say. You will have cried your tears, and then stay there a little bit longer. Stay there until you know you can leave. And then get up, sit up in your chair, open your eyes, and know that you have had contact and that you have sent your love and your good positive energy.
Kim says, "Thank you, Taj. It took me 24 hours to get to my mother in person. She passed at the 23rd hour. I still struggle with it a lot. I did phone contact, but she's struggling with it." Taj, good way to ask that question. Go ahead, Barbara.
Can I answer, Kim?
Please.
Okay. Kim, I want you or anyone else listening who didn't get the opportunity to say goodbye in your grieving, I want you to sit down and write your mother a letter and put in that letter everything you would have said if you had been there. And then take that letter and burn the letter. Take the ashes from that letter and go outside and scatter those ashes to the wind. And know that that letter has been, and all those heartfelt feelings and thoughts and emotions have reached. And then I want you to let how well you live your life going forward be the tribute of the love that you have for your special person.
That's great. And then thank you for that, Barbara. Jennifer says, "I know for a fact my dad's spirit was guiding me as I was trying to get to his bedside before he was taken off life support. I was across the country. I miss that dude, but he is always present with me." Fabulous. Okay, well, you know what? Again, and you're getting a lot of love, Barbara, which is always a beautiful thing. Barbara gives very great advice. Thank you. So thank you for that. Let's see. Georgina has a question. Was there ever someone not coming to be there to say goodbye because they haven't been close for some reasons?
I'm sure there have been. There's no perfect relationship. And we've got family dynamics that actually become exaggerated and even bigger as we're dealing with a end of life. Sometimes we do our best work, and sometimes it's our most confusing work. And so dying won't change our relationship, but it gives us the opportunity to try and change it if we want it changed. And it won't be the person that's dying, even in the months before death. It won't be the person that's dying that will reach out and make the changes. They're withdrawing, they're processing inside. It has to be us who takes the first step. And in the months before death, you can sit down with dad and say, Dad, I want to have a heart to heart. I want us to talk about our relationship and our life together. Dad, will you give me that gift and let's talk about it? It has to be us, the survivors, that make the first move in most cases. Now, someone will come along and prove me wrong, but this is how it works with most. It's up to us to make the first move.
Barbara, this has been absolutely fantastic. You have helped the community, taught us so much. Really, I want to thank you. Your words are like gold wisdom for us, and it's so well needed in our community. We always talk about how there doesn't seem to be enough resources, and that's one reason why we were inspired to do this show, is to give everyone a platform to share their knowledge with the world. And I truly want to thank, on behalf of my brother and the foundation, thank you for joining us. Quick question: how can people get in touch with you or follow you?
They can go to my website, which is bkbooks.com. If they
Okay.
have personal questions, I don't talk on the phone, but I answer all of my emails personally. So if you have a question or if I can be of assistance, it's Barbara at bkbooks. Barbara at bkbooks.com is my email address. And I also write a blog every week, and you can go to my website and sign up for that. You'll get an email with my blog, and you can read it or you can delete it, whatever. But, it is an opportunity to get support and more education and information.
Okay. So again, the first place you can go to is www.b as in boy, k as in kangaroo, books, bkbooks.com. And then if you want to email a question, obviously on topic, you can go to you can email Barbara at bkbooks.com. Another thing, Barbara, is in honor of November being National Hospice Month. Very cool. I did not know that. You are offering a promo code for your t-shirts. Code is hospice, and for 10% off t-shirts. Where can we order your books and merchandise?
Go to the website.
All right.
Check out the website.
Okay. So again, if you want to order any books or t-shirts, you can go to bkbooks.com, and then we can use the word hospice at checkout for a 10% discount. I love your shirt. I love what it says, by the way. People don't die like they do in the movies. How do they die differently, Barbara?
There is a whole process. Our movies say someone's going to be saying something profound. Our movies say that they simply close their eyes and stop breathing. It's not like that.
Very cool. So again, here's a copy of some books you could check out. End of Life Guideline Series. Visit bkbooks.com to order your booklets, e-booklets now. Barbara, before we started this live chat, I gave you somewhat of a warning that what Taj and I like to do is give our guests the ultimate say, the final say, before we say goodbye to our community and to everyone. So, unless Taj, you had another question, you cool with us going here, or were you good? Okay, Taj gives me the thumbs up. So Barbara, minute, 2 minute, whatever time you want. You could talk about your favorite cooking recipe, your favorite quote, poem, favorite type of animal, anything Barbara Carnes wants to leave us with. What would you leave my community, my brother's community with here on the Power of Love show?
I would say, and I kind of touched on it before, is to appreciate each day of your life. Live in the moment and to really concentrate on our relationships because they're fragile. Relationships are fragile, and we have to work to keep them because someday someone we care about is going to die. And we don't want to look back and say, oh, I should have, I wish I had. Why didn't I pick up the phone? You know, live in the moment. And if you think it, do it. We don't want to carry around a lot of I should haves. I want to thank you for the work you're doing and the lives that you're touching. And thank you very much for allowing me this opportunity to be part of the message that you're giving out there, the love that you're giving. And ask me to come back sometime.
Yes, you,
We'll
Barbara.
talk about
I
grief.
mean, I have to show you some of these incredible, encouraging words from you being on our show. Barbara's voice has a comments about it. Thank you for doing this today. Clarice says, so true, feel better. Jack Love says, thank you, Barbara. I'm learning a lot today. Clarice says, thank you so much for all your knowledge. Carol says, thanks for coming to the show, Barbara. God bless you, Barbara, from Georgina. And then Adrian says, thank you for being here with us today, Barbara. Sarah says, yes, we always learn a lot. Philippa says, thank you, Miss Barbara. So many great, kind words that I could keep going, but I am going to find another thing, and this is a couple of things. Jennifer said, I was a caregiver to my dad and my mom. I'm grateful for the time I've had with them. Let's see what else. I know I'm a little unorganized, but it's so many comments. I'm not used to all these comments. Bombi says, Barbara out here doing the Lord's work. Love it. With the super chat. Thank you so much, Barbara. And as I think I've highlighted this one, but it's deserving of another highlight. And that's your explanation of death makes me feel a little better about death. It doesn't seem as scary anymore. I think that's the ultimate compliment personally, because that is like something that is incredibly difficult to do. And Barbara, your presence, your wisdom, and your words help that with not only Angie, but many in our community. And I want to thank you again on behalf of my brother and our community. I think that is it. Taj, am I forgetting anything?
Not that I know of. You know, I'll step in if you are.
Okay, cool. All right. So just a reminder, everyone, a big thank you to you, Barbara Carnes, for being with us on the Power of Love show. Go to www.bkbooks.com where you'll see plenty of items that Barbara is behind. And don't forget, if you use the word hospice at checkout, you'll get a 10% off for this month because it's National Hospice Month. That is it, you guys. I think it's okay to sign off. Barbara, final time. Thank you for joining us. And we will see everyone next Wednesday at 1 o'clock. Adios, everyone. Bye.